Well, thank you very much, Secretary of State, firstly, for expressing so many positive sentiments to the sector. Particularly appreciated your words about our international standing and the very important role we have as a sector in supporting the UK going forward. There are, of course, always challenges. I've never been in a job when there aren't lots of challenges, and I'm sure we all look forward to working with you very much to try and do all we can to solve the issues that you talked about. Now, as I said earlier, we come here in Birmingham at a time of huge change for the country. And while there are obviously challenges ahead for all of us, I think it's really important that we all remember that our universities represent opportunities. Opportunities for individuals, opportunities for the country, and opportunities for our future. As our new Prime Minister and my local MP at Brunel, Boris Johnson, rightly mentioned in his first speech outside Number 10, our universities are admired and loved across the world. But it's not the institutions that we should be celebrating, but the people within them. Those are the people who make our universities what they are. And so this morning, and indeed throughout my presidency, I want to focus on the people in our higher education sector, our students and our alumni, our researchers, our academics, our professional and support service staff, and yes, our leaders. And it's all of us together who transform universities into the real national asset that they are, renowned right across the world for the quality of their education and their research, and for their positive impact on economic growth and social and cultural prosperity. Now, this, of course, is my inaugural conference speech as President of Universities UK. I'm immensely proud and privileged to have this position, and I took over from Janet Beer at the beginning of last month. Janet, as you will all be aware, was President during a period of great uncertainty and upheaval. 3 different universities ministers in Westminster, 3 different Brexit secretaries, 3 different education secretaries, and enormous changes in the sector, including the launch of the Office for Students and UKRI. And I'd like to say a very, very big thank you on behalf of all of us at UUK to Janet for the fantastic work that she did in representing the sector over those 2 years. Now, our universities are, of course, home to some of the most cutting-edge research facilities on the planet. Excuse me. Places where research teams come together to advance knowledge and tackle major global challenges that we face. Our universities, of course, are home to some of the greatest artistic and cultural collections and facilities in the world, like this great symphony hall, open to the public, inspiring the next generation of artists, archaeologists, musicians, curators, and instilling a love of creativity, art, and culture in our local communities, as well as in our staff and our students. Our universities are home to well-being and sports and educational facilities that help our students and indeed our staff develop and flourish. And of course, they support the health and welfare of our local residents, from school children to sports staff. But all too often, universities are described in terms of their buildings, their campuses, or as ivory towers. And I sometimes think that we call ourselves a sector, and this actually reinforces it. But what we really are is a community of people, over 2.3 million students, almost 420,000 members of staff. We're places where people from all over the world come together with shared passions and ambitions and a desire to better their own lives and the lives of other people. In his first week in office, our new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, spoke of the need to level up opportunities for families and for communities across all 4 nations. This is exactly what our universities do. We are international, we're diverse, we are innovative, and we're committed to making a positive difference to individuals, to the towns and cities and regions in which we're based, to the health and wealth of the nation, and to global prosperity. Putting people first is absolutely central to what we do, whether it's equipping our students to embark on fulfilling careers, confronting difficult societal problems, or finding solutions to pressing issues of our time, from tackling climate change to improving health and well-being, and boosting the UK economy at a time of profound uncertainty. Our Made in Uni campaign, which we launched last December, showcases many fine examples of the ways in which people at the heart of our universities are progressing ideas, research, and initiatives that benefit the lives of everyone. So far, this campaign's reached a very impressive 46 million people. But just because the message is carried, it doesn't necessarily mean it's hit home. And over the coming year, we must keep up this good work and consider new ways in which we can reach people and help them understand what we do and what we do to help them, and not just play to our own crowd. Now, one challenge which is consistently levelled at us is to show how to define value for our students and how to address concerns that some courses offer poor value. But much of this debate has been framed very narrowly by policymakers, politicians, and commentators. It's lacked nuance, and it's failed to look beyond salary outcomes and, crucially, failed to understand what motivates today's students and our recent graduates. Those of us from universities here today know that the time we spend at open days with prospective students and their families, with our own students, with our graduates and their families at the time of graduation, that salary and status are not everything for this generation. Graduate recruiters say that the questions today's graduates ask at their end of their job interviews are more focused on what's the culture like, what's it like to work here, how will you support us, rather than how much am I going to earn. And well-being, personal development, diversity, and civic responsibilities are very highly prized. So what message does it send to our young people when they hear that the value of a university education and experience is judged solely on the money they earn when they graduate? Do we really want to send a message to our nursing and social care students or to our trainee teachers that their degree holds less value simply because they're going to earn less money than a lot of other graduates? Or that a degree in the creative arts, a sector which actually generates more than 100 billion a year for the UK economy and accounts for 1 in 11 jobs, is held in lower esteem? If we're genuinely to improve how we define value and address concerns about poor value, then first, we must ask what value means to those who are at the heart of the system. Not politicians, not journalists, but today's students, Generation Z, and the millennials who make up our recent graduates. And that's exactly what UUK has done. New UK research, which will be presented later this morning, shows that 8 in 10 students and recent graduates surveyed thinks that the government should do more to promote the many other benefits of studying at university, defining value and the benefit of a university education much more broadly than simply by future earnings alone. Studying a subject that really interests them, having the opportunity to broaden their horizons, meeting diverse people, hearing diverse views, and engaging in debates on topics that matter to our communities and to our society. These are the things that motivate many current students and recent graduates. And I'm truly heartened that values which our sector holds dear, working for the good of the public and communities, champion tolerance and celebrating diversity, are reflected strongly in these findings. It's also clear that opportunities to access university at different points in their lives is critically important to students. And foundation years provide means for tens of thousands of students to do just that every year. When UUK asked its members what recommendation in the Augur Review's report on the funding of post-18 education caused them the most worry, many highlighted the proposal to withdraw financial support for foundation years attached to degree courses. It's a fair challenge to demonstrate the impact and worth of this route to degree entry, but it's also very obvious from the analysis that UUK has undertaken that foundation years provide a crucial stepping stone into universities for individuals with high potential but non-traditional qualifications. In England, in 2017-18, 47% of foundation year entrants were from BME backgrounds, and 15% were from the most disadvantaged areas in the country. And 49% of the mature students who enroll on degree programs to reskill based on their work experience access university via those foundation courses. And our analysis shows that foundation courses work. 86% of foundation year students from the most disadvantaged background progressed to degree study, compared with 57% that took other routes. Many entered strategically important courses, such as engineering, physics, and the biological sciences. But ultimately, this must be about choice, giving individuals the option to decide which path is best for them and for their personal aspirations. And I look forward very much to making a positive case for supporting foundation years to ministers and to policymakers. The Post-18 review provides a number of areas of challenge for higher education providers, challenges which UUK and its members are going to be responding to in the coming months. We are taking the lead at looking at the issue of value, how it's defined, how it's measured, and how it's communicated, and evidencing the steps that universities are taking to promote efficiency and improve understanding of a university cost base. We're doing more to consider how we develop and enable a system that supports lifelong learning, identifying the current barriers, proposing solutions, and addressing the practical issues on delivering a credit-based system and lifelong loans. And we're delivering a vision for universities' role in delivering level 4 and 5 qualifications, including opportunities to grow their role and strengthen their partnerships with FE to meet the skills need. And we're undertaking a review to establish the evidence, best practice, and inform the debate around university admissions, which aims to build greater levels of transparency, trust, and public understanding in the admissions practices. And we will continue our work to take action to grip the issue of grade inflation and to demonstrate the sector's ability to maintain the value of a UK qualification. Now, amid the current political turmoil, the prospect of a general election, of course, remains very high. And universities have a fundamental and varied role to play. UUK will set out a positive vision for the sector, including manifesto commitments we would like political parties to make. Commitments such as the reinstatement of maintenance grants for students in greatest need, and recognising the need for long-term sustainable funding for both teaching and research. This will build on the positive comments in the Chancellor's spending round review last week, where he promised to turbocharge our ambitions on research and development. But we have a wider role to play too, by encouraging voter registration so that students are able to cast their vote, whether they're at home or whether they're at university, fostering debate on campus, giving students the skills to distinguish between facts and fiction, and facilitating events to enable our local communities to engage in the democratic process. Now, I focus so far on domestic issues, but we are, of course, one of the most international sectors. And with the government's new international education strategy, announced earlier this year and talked about very eloquently by the Secretary of State, we have a really golden opportunity to reset the narrative, a chance to turbocharge, to use that word again, our global potential. For years, we've looked at with envy as many of our competitors have embarked on ambitious international education strategies. Australia, Canada, Germany, and emerging markets such as China, and we ignore them at our peril. Despite a challenging environment, we have remained the second most popular destination for international students, but only just. We've lost considerable ground, and in recent years, we now have others snapping on our heels. Now, this is a strategy which requires cross-government action, and one that acknowledges now, until now, we've punched above our weight, but below our potential. So it means the time really is right for the changes in our immigration system, and yesterday, as we heard already, we had the long-awaited and hard-fought good news. Yesterday's announcement on the 2-year post-study work visa provides a bold boost that our universities need. Competitive advantage reports compiled by UUK clearly show the exceptional foundations on which we can build. With the UK ranked first for student experience across multiple measures, and our recent report on graduate outcomes of more than 16,000 former international students shows that the exceptional premium exists for our international students who come to the UK, as well as the long-term benefits we gain from graduates who want to trade, connect, research, and work with us. The improvements to our post-study work offer are a really, really important part of this jigsaw. In recent announcements, government has shown that it understands the importance of our international activities for the future of this country. And my message to the government, to the Education Minister, and to our new Prime Minister is this: continue to work with us to meet and beat the targets set out in the International Education Strategy and to make UK universities the #1 global destination for students. And so to Brexit. There is no shying away from the fact that no deal, whether this is in 49 days' time or further down the line, is not what our sector wants. The risks and challenges will be significant, and they could impact on the sector for a very long time to come. UUK has recently undertaken a survey to see just how prepared our members are for Brexit, and the results of this will be published very shortly. It is welcome to see from the survey that all the universities that responded have prepared at least to some extent. But of course, we can't address every risk alone. While the news that universities feel reasonably prepared for some deal in some capacity is reassuring, the implications of exit under these circumstances remain largely unknown. It's in the government's power to alleviate many of these concerns. With the clock ticking, there are many outstanding questions, not least around visa arrangements, eligibility for globally prestigious research funding, and our participation in Erasmus+. We're not posing these questions to generate fear, nor to forego our responsibility as a sector to prepare ourselves as best as we possibly can. These are questions of critical importance to the long-term health and reputation of our world-leading universities and to our ability to make the best of Brexit and what comes next. The results of this survey will inform our discussions with governments in the weeks to come. If we're genuine in our commitment to put people at the heart of our sector, then we must do all that we can, both individually and collectively, to ensure that university is a fulfilling experience for all, one that has a long-lasting and positive impact and that enables our students to thrive as they move forward in their careers and their lives. Universities have made significant collective progress in addressing some of the broader societal issues facing the UK and the wider world, and it's to these issues I'd now like to turn. Student mental health has for several years been a priority for Universities UK and a personal priority for me. At last year's conference, we launched our Suicide Safer Universities guidance. Many of you will remember we heard a powerful and deeply effective testimony from James Murray, the father of Ben Murray, who very sadly committed suicide. James urged us all to think about how we can join the dots within our institutions more effectively. How can we identify students experiencing poor mental health more easily? How can we share information with trusted friends and families without breaking the students' trust or setting them back in their recovery? These questions and more have been considered by a Universities UK Information Task Sharing Group, which I chair. This brings together student representatives, bereaved parents, legal advisors, NHS staff, and other universities. And I'm very pleased that this group will soon be publishing a consensus statement on information sharing with a nominated contact when there are serious concerns about a student's well-being. In recent years, I've watched the growing prevalence of hate crime in broader society with both horror and anger. The latest statistics for police-recorded hate crime shows a year-on-year increase of 17%, and race hate makes up a startling 3/4 of that total. The university sector has already shown a very strong commitment to tackling hate crime and harassment alongside gender-based violence. But we must increase our efforts to tackle race hate. The Equality and Human Rights Commission has undertaken an inquiry to examine racial harassment in the higher education sector and will report its findings soon. A core strand of UUK's work this year will be responding to that report's findings and recommendations and developing new guidance for the sector on addressing racial harassment. As the charity Victim Support says, nobody should have to live with the fear and anxiety that hate crimes cause. So it will be a personal priority of mine to redouble the sector's efforts to prevent and respond effectively to such damaging incidents. And our responsibility as university leaders also extend to ensuring that our students remain safe in their social activities, particularly those relating to Freshers' Week. There's been growing focus on initiations at universities following the tragic death of Ed Farmer in 2016 after an initiation-style bar crawl. And a cross-sector group convened by Universities UK will shortly publish guidance to help universities to do more to identify and prevent problem initiations that occur as a result often of physical or mental harm. Excessive alcohol consumption is often a feature, but we must take care to acknowledge and respond to other contributory factors. I've said only a little so far about research and innovation. As the Made in Uni campaign demonstrates, from the phones in our pockets to revolutionary new blood tests for the rapid diagnosis of meningococcal meningitis and septicemia, the game-changing properties of graphene, UK university research is key to keeping our country at the forefront of innovation. And that means we need to be able to attract, to train, and to retain talented staff. Now, as the chair of the Concordat Strategy Group, I've been very closely involved with the review of the Concordat to support the career development of researchers. A new Concordat is published today, which we're going to hear more about later. It sets out clear principles around environment and culture, employment conditions, and the professional and career development opportunities that we offer to our researchers, and it will require a step change in approach. The launch of the Concordat provides an opportunity to show that we are truly committed to developing the pipeline of talented researchers needed not just in our universities but also in industry to deliver the benefits of the government's planned increase in investment in research and innovation to 2.4% of GDP. And we must also acknowledge our responsibility of looking after our staff. And that means effectively resolving the ongoing USS pensions dispute and working together to agree a long-term solution which is going to be acceptable to all parties and affordable. I want to end by saying something about Universities UK as an organisation, or rather the people who together make up Universities UK. While Vice-Chancellors are the nominated representatives of their universities, the collective strength of the UK derives from engaging right across the sector, from students to staff. Now, for UUK to maximise its impact and influence, it must make full use of the expertise not just of Vice-Chancellors, but senior leaders, expert practitioners, and our academic communities to make sure that our work is properly informed. So that's why I'm delighted to see so many representatives of the wider senior leadership teams here today. And I'm heartened that the broader sector engagement that UUK routinely undertakes, whether it's using academics to inform our harassment work, or students to shape our efforts on defining the value of higher education, the communications and digital teams who help us to bring the work of universities to the wider audience, or immigration compliance and international recruitment teams who help us to identify improvements in the visa system, is well received and well supported, and it wouldn't happen without the help of people right across our community. So during my presidency, I'd like to see this engagement broaden and deeper so that in carrying out its mission, UUK draws on the wealth of expertise and talent right across our member institutions. Now, as I start my term of office as president, it's very hard to predict with any certainty what lies ahead over the next 2 years. Indeed, at the moment, it's quite difficult to predict what's going to happen in the next 2 days. But in this very rapidly changing world, I'm quite confident that the commitment of our university and staff, the energy and ideas of our researchers, and our common goal to do more for this country and the public good stands us in excellent stead to weather any storms that are ahead. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have not one but 2 ministers joining us together, one of whom has only been in his role for, I think, less than 48 hours. Chris Skidmore needs very little in the way of introduction to this audience, having served as the university's minister jointly at the Department for Education and the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy between last December and this July. Chris showed himself to be a highly engaged and passionate advocate of universities and what we do, and someone who's made great efforts to understand the diversity of the sector. So, Chris, we are delighted to see you back in the briefed and delighted to welcome you to Universities UK, and we look forward very much to hearing what you have to say.